The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Welcome to the New York City Hispanic Chamber of Commerce 2022 Women in Business Virtual Awards. We are so pleased to have you with us today. Over the past year, we can attest that life is so very precious. This is why we must make time to celebrate one another. As you know, we're coming to the end of Women's History Month, and we have an exciting virtual event planned for you as we are honoring 3 outstanding Hispanic women who continue to make powerful impact in their respective business fields. Now, let me introduce to you the wonderful Cindy Estrada, our Executive Director for the New York City Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Cindy,
thank you, Andrea.
welcome.
Thank you. It's so nice to see you in person. We've been isolated for so long, so this is wonderful. Good afternoon, powerful women and esteemed guests. Most of us have experienced our lifetime obstacles in which we have overcome. Now we are here and have many achievements to be grateful for. The New York City Hispanic Chamber of Commerce has built its foundation and reputation on creating strong alliances with companies that put people in their community as a top priority. Fordham University's cybersecurity program has partnered with us once again to help identify a Latino student to receive a full master's degree cyber scholarship. We are so grateful for our partners and our members and our sponsors and the support and the work that the mission to the New York City Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We are also grateful for our members and their commitment and involvement with our businesses, community citywide. If you are not a member of the New York City Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, please visit our website, www.hispanicchamber.nyc. The strength of every workplace is its people.
And now, let's enjoy some music by Jacob Velasquez. Jacob is a 14-year-old musician and songwriter from America's Got Talent Season 15. He has been playing music since he was 3 years old and currently plays piano, drums, guitar, saxophone, cello, brass, you name it, he does it. A few months after his 4th birthday, Jacob was diagnosed with a form of autism called PDD-NOS, which stands for Pervasive Developmental Disorder Not Otherwise Specified. But this has not kept Jacob from pursuing his passion. By age 5, he was already performing on Good Morning America, The View, and CNN. He has traveled across the country and abroad, helping raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for different charitable organizations. He has performed on Telemundo, The Steve Harvey Show, and Harry Connick Jr. Show. Jacob has had the pleasure of performing with the greats of Gloria and Emilio Esteban, and Taylor Swift has described his music as beautiful. He has done virtual collaborations with Andrea Bocelli and Kenny G. Jacob produces and edits his own YouTube videos in his spare time. Well, you guessed it, he is playing music today. Take it away, Jacob. Each year, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce takes great pride in honoring Hispanic women who are leaders in their field. These women are recognized for their business achievements and for their work in giving back to the community. They serve as role models for young girls to dream and make their dreams come true in a male-dominated society. Times are forever changing, and we at the Chamber see ourselves as change agents, enabling women, minorities, and people and communities of color to have opportunities accessible to them so they too can be participants in today's society. It gives me great pleasure to tell you more about our first honoree, Vanessa Blanco, who will be receiving the Chamber's Excellence in Banking and Finance Award. Vanessa Blanco is a vice president and senior business consultant at JP Morgan Chase. It is in this capacity her responsibilities include leading a team of specialists focusing on understanding each client's unique needs to deliver strategic financial guidance and solutions for a more sustainable future. Vanessa also volunteers with several nonprofits and organizations focused on ending hunger and homelessness, most recently with Feeding America and local food banks. Originally from Orlando, Vanessa graduated with a bachelor's degree in international trade and marketing from State University of New York, the Fashion Institute of Technology, FIT. Vanessa is also currently working towards her professional studies certificate at New York University. So please join me in welcoming Vanessa Blanco.
Hi, and thank you so much to the New York Hispanic Chambers of Commerce. I am so honored to be a recipient of this amazing award. It truly is wonderful to partner up with an organization that truly is embedded to the greatness of the entrepreneurs of New York City. I, Vanessa Blanco, am so happy to represent JP Morgan on this excellent work that we try to do to really focus and help elevate our Latino business owners in New York City. Thank you again for the amazing highlight for the work that we do to help provide education and help be a resource to Latino business owners in New York City. I am honored and gracious enough to be able to work with you all. Thank you.
I am so very pleased to introduce our next honoree, Veronica Rosario, who will be receiving the Chamber's Excellent in Media Award. Veronica Rosario was born and raised in Brooklyn and considers herself a citizen of the world. Her mission in life is to empower, educate, and uplift young people through her work and give underrepresented groups a voice through her storytelling. She began her career in television industry in 1995, working for major networks across New York and Florida. As Che Guevara says, a true revolutionary is guided by great feeling of love. Mrs. Rosario loves her community, her country, Dominican by ancestry, Brooklyn by birth. Her goal is to give a voice to all of the stories that exist in these communities. Will you help me please welcome Veronica Rosario?
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you so much, Andrea, for those kind words. And I want to thank the New York City Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for this humbling honor. As a Latina, born and raised in New York City, my proudest duty and privilege is to represent the Latino community. My Latinidad makes me who I am, right? So growing up in Brooklyn, New York, as a first-generation Dominican American, Spanish was my first language. I learned English when I went to kindergarten, in school. I spent every summer from the age of 5 until high school in the Dominican Republic, surrounded by my family and my culture. No wonder why I always felt like something was different about me. I was always on the outside looking in. But that's what makes me a great journalist and storyteller. When I was young, I used to watch the news with my dad. This was before CNN and the 24-hour news cycle. We used to just sit down and watch Eyewitness News with Kaidi Tong and Ernie Anastas together. That's how I became interested in TV news. And I just never looked back. I had a front row seat to some of the most historic moments in our nation's history. The Elian Gonzalez raid in Miami in January of 2000, the controversial Gore-Bush hanging Chad election later that year, the 9/11 attacks, the crash of American Airlines Flight 587, which was headed to Santo Domingo, President Barack Obama's election, the confirmation of the first Latina Supreme Court Justice, Sonia Sotomayor, and the list goes on and on. One of the stories that I am most proud of was going to Puerto Rico following Hurricane Maria and spending several days there covering stories of courage, resilience, and love. I was so moved by the people, and I was so happy that I was able to tell their stories not through the lens of pity, but through the lens of strength and pride. I am blessed to be living my dream each and every day by being a journalist. I've even had the privilege to work alongside the two people that I used to sit and watch with my dad, Ernie Anastas and Kaidi Tong, and I currently call them my colleagues. It hasn't always been easy. I've often been the only in the room, more often than not. I've been passed over for more promotions than I care to count because I don't fit the mold that they were looking for. But I press on and continue to tell the stories that matter to me and my community. I'm honored to serve as the voice for our stories through our lens, and I will not stop doing that for our people. I didn't get all this way without a lot of support. So I want to just take a moment to thank mi mamá y mi papá, Diana y Aladino Rosario, who came to this country so I could live my dream. I also wanted to say thank you to my hermanas, Nancy and Gigi, for putting up with me, and to my nieces and nephews, Chelsea, Giancarlo, Gianna, and Braden, my eternal inspirations. May each of you continue to vivir el sueño. Thank you again to the New York City Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for this honor. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I am personally honored as a Latina woman in business to be able to speak with all of you about our next honoree, receiving from the New York City Hispanic Chamber the Trailblazer Award 2022. A passionate leader, a woman of courage who has made the impossible possible for the New York City minority women business enterprises. I am speaking of Zenaida Rodriguez, una boricua puertorriqueña that has dedicated her life to supporting and helping MWBEs succeed. I myself, as an MWBE certified IT consulting business, I attest to how Ms. Rodriguez has worked with our community through the years, sharing her expertise and helping us all succeed. I want to tell you just a bit about Zenaida's professional trajectory. Ms. Rodriguez is currently the Executive Director of the Regional Alliance for Small Contractors. This is an organization that assists in the growth of small minority, woman-owned, disadvantaged, and local business enterprises, mostly related to the construction and associated industries. Zenaida, as a long-term advocate of the minority business community, has the experience that stems from over 20 years employed at the Metropolitan Transit Authority. In that capacity, she served as the MTA's Deputy Chief Diversity Officer, where she served and shined as a true advocate of the MWBE community. Her responsibilities entailed overseeing operations, DBE certification, reporting, business and diversity initiative efforts for the MTA's Small Business Program. Most recently, Zenaida was appointed and served as the Director of Human Resources for the New York Governor Kathy Hochul's administration. She continues to serve as chair of the annual Competitive Edge Conference, a committee that consists of city and state agencies that serve over 27 years in planning workshops, award luncheons, networking events specific to the growth and advancement of minority business community. Zenaida earned her bachelor's degree in business administration and a master's degree in public affairs and public administration, both attending Metropolitan College of New York while working full-time. Through her career, Zenaida has been recognized by many organizations with various awards. Zenaida is a proud single mother of 2 sons, 1 daughter, 6 grandchildren, and 1 on the way. We welcome Zenaida Rodriguez, who will receive the Chamber's Trailblazer Award 2022.
Thank you for those kind words. I am so grateful of the recognition that I am receiving today as a trailblazer for the minority business community. Small businesses are the mainframe of economic development and workforce empowerment in our communities. I am proud to play an instrumental role in the process. To the New York City Hispanic Chamber of Commerce President Nick Lugo, board members, staff and its affiliates, thank you for your recognition, and I am humbled to be a part of a group that continues to build partnerships in the Hispanic community. During Women's History Month, the Chamber continues to empower Latinas by acknowledging successful women who contribute their professional expertise to the corporate and the government sector. A Trailblazer Award recognizes significant inroads in our community. We move forward with progression and we get recognized for creating a trail and blazing through it. As a recipient, I stand on the shoulders of the women in my life, my peers, my former bosses, my mother, tias, and ancestors. Born in Puerto Rico, raised in the Bronx, I am thankful to have grown into a position where we can only create and increase contracting opportunities for the women in business and our communities. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm glad to have here in our panel discussion 2 of our award winners, Zenaida Rodriguez and Veronica Rosario. So thank you, ladies, for joining us. I'm really looking forward to meeting more, learning more of you, so our audience can do the same as well. And we'll start with Zenaida, please. So your role at the Regional Alliance for Contractors and Small Businesses, you get to deal a lot with helping these businesses access, the different contracts throughout the various industries. And is there something that stands out the most with women business owners today that you notice that they excel more or are noted for excelling in their industry?
Sure. So I think that, since women, going many, many years back when we were kids, when our mothers were trying to raise us, one of the major assets that women have is multitasking. And that is being able to do more than one thing. We're doing dishes, we're taking care of kids, we're cleaning house, we're thinking of what the next step is going to be, we're thinking of taking a break. So in small businesses, what the Regional Alliance does is the majority of our goal is to develop businesses. And one of the things that I say is that women should be strong. And I've always told my daughter, I said, when days do not go right, what don't cry. Don't ever cry in front of everyone. Stay strong. And that's one of the most major assets that a woman can bring to the table. You will always be tested. Multitasking is extremely important because you're an accomplished woman and you get to accomplish more in a day. Planning beyond the goal, always looking to see what more can you do other than your day to day. What is that next goal going to be? And I always, at the Regional Alliance, feel that the next generation is coming up, and we need to empower our younger generation, the Latinas. And what I'd like to see is that, always dress for the occasion. And when you dress for the occasion, even if you don't have that role, people will see you a certain way. That is part of carrying that
Projecting
strength.
yourself.
Yes, and carrying that strength behind you that you need, to get that contract.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Thank you. Veronica, so in your profession, you've covered everything that's happened out there. We could talk about all the stories that you see in the news, and Veronica has definitely been there.
Yeah.
Now, during COVID, what do you think resonated the most within resilience, which was a term that came about within, all these past 2 years? Now, do you have a story you can share of something you've covered where resilience stood out the most within, women in general?
I mean, there are so many stories. That's such a great question because particularly in communities of color, the pandemic decimated our communities, and we did not have access to the same, vaccines or testing. It wasn't as easy in our communities as, the same way they're food deserts. This was a COVID desert for a long time.
Definitely.
So equity was a really big deal. But what I saw coming out of that across the board in our community was just this, coming together and this nurturing of each other, whether it was a food pantry or whether it was in the emergency room. And the one story that always sticks out is Dr. Arabia Molet. She is an Afro-Latina, and she's an emergency room doctor. And she's from the Bronx, actually.
Yeah.
And
one of the hardest hit areas, of course.
Right.
Yes.
And she works at an emergency room, I believe, in Brooklyn. The morning that we had her on, she was crying, and it made me realize, like, the people on the front lines, especially during the beginning weeks and months of the pandemic, they didn't get to see their families. They put themselves on the line when everyone else was staying at home. And Dr. Molet is just one example of all of our first responders, whether it was the police officers or the firefighters or the EMTs, and there were women among them. And these were women who had to go home to their children and their families and their husbands who were being homeschooled. They still had to manage their homes,
their personal lives.
Exactly. Yeah. And it really hit home for me how, it takes a village. And it was really, it resonated with me because I saw people coming out of the woodwork. Like these food pantries would just sprout up, and people would just come with boxes of food and vegetables and toys for kids and just things to give. And that's the Latino way. We just give. And
we're givers.
Yeah, we're givers and we're nurturers. And so that was really the healing, most memorable story that I have.
Yeah, that's amazing. especially amongst the hardest of times that we lived so far, we got to see such beauty within the community, which is very valuable.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't see it in our everyday lives.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel, or can you elaborate a little bit on the equity and opportunity with organizations moving forward as they provide a fair share for the women in the workplace? Have you seen that, how they are accessing higher positions, even within your organization or around you?
Well, one thing I will say, about this movement towards diversity, equity, and inclusion is that we've definitely seen more, women of color, coming onto the forefront. Now, whether that's just, whether it's a sign of the times or whether they just do that as a facade, that remains to be seen because this
Equity
has just
washing,
started.
diversity washing.
Exactly.
We hear about that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one thing that I will say about, WPIX, it was the first job that I had out of college over 20 years ago. And I am still there today.
I didn't know that about you.
And I will say that from the moment I walked in the door, there was a female assistant news director who became a news director, one of the first female news directors in the city of New York. Since then, we've had multiple female news directors. As of recent, and over the last 10 years, we've had 3 female news directors, 1 woman of color, So there are a lot of opportunities that I have seen up close and personal. Now, it's not the same every place else.
Yes, there's still the boys club out there.
Absolutely. And we're also, WPIX is an independent station, so we have that reputation where we definitely set a different standard than the traditional network stations where it's harder to really, move up in the ranks and to get into these positions of, gatekeepers.
Yes, the higher rank. So could you say you're more or less paving the way? Your organization is, showing that it's possible and there's no harm.
Absolutely. I think we've done that in terms of, the kind of coverage that we do. We have a series called Created Equal that we started, pre-pandemic. This was before the Black Lives Matter movement.
Before everything.
This was before, so that has always been the PIX way, where we're
like
a
that.
community station. We speak for the people.
Okay.
That's excellent.
Very good. Very good. I love it. So more women out there in higher positions.
That's right.
And can I just say, I have been at the MTA for over 20 years. So most of my life I was at the MTA. And recently I retired from state service to become executive director to the Regional Alliance for Small Contractors. And one of the goals that I have there in this era of promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion is to be able to open up more opportunities for women. If you're in a position that you can do that, now is the time. At the MTA, the majority of the time that I was there, I was literally the only Hispanic woman in the program,
Yeah.
And so whenever you have that opportunity, open up to others.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because I was curious, since you assist small businesses, what does your organization do to help women reach this new opportunities that are out there? We all know, procurement has become more and more big with diversity and inclusion, and how many doors are opening up to women contractors for the government. So how does the Alliance participate here?
So procurement is a big word because behind procurement, the word procurement is funding. Lots of funding, lots of state, city, federal funding. And what the Regional Alliance does is create access to those types of opportunities by helping small businesses understand that they're very much needed to fulfill these types of opportunities. It's a balance between the city and state and the federal subcontracting provisions on these large projects. So, for example, with the MTA, Metro North, that's being built in the Bronx, right? There are subcontracting provisions on those goals for small businesses.
Yes.
So what we do at the Regional Alliance is a system in the certification process.
Certification for
Certification for MWBEs,
the Women Minority,
Women Business Enterprise, and under the federal side, the DPE, which is the disadvantaged, unfortunately they call it that, disadvantaged business enterprise. And, once you get certified under those types of opportunities that government continues to announce, that you have access to opportunities. So what we do at the Regional Alliance is create the awareness of these types of certifications, understand that there's a training process that you go through, a pre-qualification that you go through, and we work with the city and state government in order to help them fulfill their goals.
Yeah, create new opportunities, because that's what it does at the end. When you obtain this certification, it enables the opportunity for you to seek these contracts. So that's very valuable.
And when I first started at the MTA, there was a lot of resistance towards the programs.
Oh, wow.
Because it wasn't marketed correctly, I think, and I'm going to toot my horn here along with the MTA staff that we have one of the best programs.
Yeah.
And with all of the experience and education that I have learned in working with the government sector, I bring that to the Regional Alliance for Small Contractors, and I empower those small businesses, especially women. And anyone who is interested in the workforce development is another category. It creates opportunities. That's what the Regional Alliance is going to do.
You pull up the chair to the table where we don't have a seat.
Absolutely.
That's what you
Absolutely.
do.
Great. So with the theme of celebrating women, because we know we're in March, so it's Women's History Month, and the Chamber is celebrating today the Hispanic women, which is very valuable. Now, you're both Latinas. So the question I have for you, is there a Hispanic woman that you have admired, maybe when you were younger, maybe today, that has helped you mold what you've become, or that has inspired you to become who you are, where you've reached today in your professional or personal life?
It's a great question, and it also...
There are probably many. So
there's so many.
Yes.
There are many, and the interesting part about it is that there are still not that many in media that I can select from.
Yes.
Right? And so when you ask me the question, the first person that comes to mind, because we're in the midst of these, historic Supreme Court nomination hearings, right? Confirmation hearings. The first person that comes to mind for me is, Justice Sonia Sotomayor.
Absolutely.
Bronx
girl.
Right. Because I live not a couple of blocks away from her center. So I'm by there all the time. I go to vote there. And just to see her connection to the community and how she maintained that throughout her career. She maintained her integrity, her culture, her language, all of it. And I, when she went through the process, watching that, her poise, watching her grace under fire, it's difficult sitting for 22 hours and getting grilled.
Definitely. By many.
Absolutely.
Not only one, but by many in national television.
Right.
Yeah.
And, it was just to me, she is the epitome of a powerful Latina with grace, intelligence, and just who can, and she's getting stuff done because she's doing it.
Yeah.
And so that is the person that I would say.
Excellent.
Yes.
So there's a common saying out there, if you're not given a seat at the table, bring your own chair to the table, right? So Zenaida, have have you in any moment experienced bringing your own chair to the table, and can you elaborate briefly on that?
Absolutely. You bring your own chair, you say, move over,
Bring a picnic with you.
And bring out the agenda. Bring out the agenda. I'll give you a little story. So before I got into, things in life work out on a coincidence, if not by a certain, God puts things in your ways. And so before I got to the MTA, I literally ran a small business. It was certified, had all the acronyms behind it, going for access to contracts, SBA. So I was the executive vice president of operations, and I clearly remember one day, and it's funny because I had a red outfit on.
Like you do today.
And I was going to a meeting,
Yeah.
and in the meeting was nothing but men.
Yeah.
And they were having that conversation that when you walk in the room, when a female walks in the room, they stop the conversation and everybody looks. So I clearly remember that day as one of those days that I said, okay, you're here to get a contract. You're here to get a contract. You're going to pull up your seat and you're going to say, you're just going to play the role.
Yeah.
And again, I opened up these questions, this discussion with strength. You have to be strong and you have to be focused when you're dealing with these types of situations, because women have to try harder. Unfortunately, we still have to try harder, And so that would be that's mine, is that you have to be strong, and you have to stay focused, and never mind what's going on around you, but you get there with a goal, you promote your goal, and you keep it moving.
Yeah, laser focused is the
Absolutely.
message here.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Zenaida. Thank you, Veronica. It was wonderful getting to know you more and more of your thoughts, and bringing this really powerful, inspiring message to all our attendees today at the luncheon. And congratulations on your awards. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
We want to take an opportunity and this time to say, as an organization, we stand in support with the Ukrainian people, Ukrainian women, men, and their children who are demonstrating extraordinary courage and determination in defending their nation and their democracy. Their heroic fight is an inspiration to the rest of us. We all must speak out and act. We pray first and foremost for peace, for perhaps a peace treaty to resolve this conflict as soon as possible, so that Ukrainians and the people of Russia can get back to a normal life.
And now let's welcome Mr. Nick Lugo, the President and CEO for the New York City Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
NYCHCC actively promotes the economic growth, development, and interests of Hispanic-owned businesses. We help our members engage with a network of progressive people, businesses, government agencies, financial institutions, media, and marketing for guidance and support. Throughout the year, we are engaged in a host of events and activities benefiting our members and the business community. Our Women in Business is an annual event. The New York City and New York State Competitive Edge is a leading network event and links the region's small businesses, including minority, women, disadvantaged business enterprises, and locally based enterprises, with leading decision makers from the public and private sectors to explore new contract opportunities, new procurement practices, and new strategies to expand and exceed statewide procurement goals. Throughout its more than 36-year history, our 116th Street Festival, held annually in the month of June, has evolved to become a major national event that represents New York's diverse Latino communities, cultures, passions, and rhythms. In November each year, our Puerto Rico Conference, held in San Juan, Puerto Rico, brings together New York City and New York State elected officials and our chamber members in workshops discussing the major issues in the city and state. Networking events at the conference provide opportunities to develop new business relationships, mutual cooperation, and partnerships. Our 17th annual Hispanic Business Banquet and Scholarship Award reception will be held December 2nd this year. The pride of our banquet has always been the scholarships awarded to students in need of financial assistance. More than ever, we must help our students. The sponsorship offers opportunities for businesses to align themselves with the only citywide Hispanic chamber, where we encourage every member to connect and create mutually beneficial relationships that can help boost business for one another. Thank you for being with us for our Women in Business Award ceremony. We hope you enjoyed it. Have a safe and healthy 2022. I hope to see you at our events during the year.
And this is it for today, everyone. Muchas gracias for joining us today, helping us celebrate the amazing entrepreneurs that we had today as our honorees. We hope to see you next year. Y muchas gracias nuevamente por estar con nosotros hoy.